If you use Logic Pro, making this one song is going to change everything. But the thing is, most beginners just skip it and then they stay stuck. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can master Logic Pro 10 times faster and set you up to build fans and how to make money from your music too. I honestly didn't believe this would work until it did. So let me show you how. So a few years ago, I covered the song Tainted Love, and it's almost sitting at 2 million streams now, which is really, really cool. And I've linked the entire Logic Pro project of this for free in the description. And this project includes all the audio files that you can go in there and poke around with. I really recommend you getting that to follow along with this video. Okay, so before you produce anything, how do you even pick the right song? Because the wrong choice could actually end up making things worse. So if you're looking to build a fan base, then choose a song that has been popular in the past. If it was popular before, it can be popular again. My preferred method to do this is to look at songs just like on Wikipedia that were popular in the 1970s, 80s, 90s. Then do a modern pop production of that. Now let's look at the really cool things that you're going to learn by making a cover versus just watching tutorials. Producing a cover is a practical lesson. It's kind of like residency for doctors. Even though I've never been a doctor, I don't know. But tutorials are good, but they're theoretical, right? You're in the class just kind of listening and passively consuming information. There's no practicality to it. So let's do the practical now. But first, where do you start? Well, follow these exact steps, and I think you'll be amazed at how much you're going to pick up and learn from this process. So step 1, decide if you're going to produce the cover differently or just keep it the same. And if it's your first cover, I would just suggest doing it almost the same, which means like the same structure, the same tempo, and more or less similar instrumentation too. Even if you go that direction of trying to make it the same, it just so will happen that it's going to sound a bit different anyways because it's you. For me, I decided to produce Tainted Love a bit differently than the original because I've done a lot of cover songs. So instead of 80s pop, I decided to make it more like modern dance pop. So once you decide on like doing it the same or different, let's hit step 2. And this is where most beginners freeze because they just don't know where to start. So let's start with some structure. So a big benefit here of producing covers is the time savings that come from it. You don't have to think of structure actually, or melody ideas or anything really. You can just get to work. So for me, I mapped out a very similar structure to the original Tainted Love, and you can easily see that if you've downloaded the project. Link in the description. Now let's start building out the music in step 3. I like to build the drums first to lay the foundation. And remember, don't recreate the wheel here. Just copy literally what the cover is doing. But if you don't know what the drums are doing, well, you can use tools like the Logic Stem Splitter or paid stem splitters like lala.ai to split the drum stem so you can get a better idea of what the drum pattern is. Don't get overwhelmed here. Just break it down to the smallest layer and build it up. For example, you can just focus on the kick pattern. Don't worry about the snare, the hi-hats, or other drum elements. If our cover song was Goodbye by Charles Glane, my song, we can hear the kick pattern because I've split the stems. So it just sounds like this. Do the same thing for the snare and follow that process for the hi-hats and for the rest of the drum elements. Once we have this drum foundation, we can move on to step 4. So now we can start building up the guts of our song, which include all the instrumentation, the fun parts. But it's by far the longest part and could be a struggle for some of you, but keep with me right here because it's a cover song. You're not going to have to create anything from scratch. So this brings up a very important question. How do you know what sounds to choose or what instruments to choose from your cover? And the best answer is you literally have to listen to your cover and think, is that a guitar sound? Okay, yes, it is. You know, those sounds will be easier to identify, like guitars and instruments that, you know, a lot of humans are familiar with, but the difficult ones might be in the low end, the bass, or some synthesizers or bells and things like that. You can use tools to help identify those sounds. Other than that, you just have to train your ears, listen to sounds, and try to recreate the sounds by going into Logic and looking at the Logic Pro instruments to seeing what sounds sound like what the thing that's in your cover sound. I know it's not the answer you might be looking for, so let me try to unpack this a little bit more in Logic Pro to give you a bit more direction. Okay, so let's get back to the stem splitter tool to isolate the sounds, or we can use an EQ plugin to isolate the frequencies so you can really hear what's going on. Listen intently here and take a guess. Like if I do this to one of my own songs right now using the EQ plugin, I can hear the instrumentation. This definitely might be a challenge at first because your ears aren't trained, so you don't know how to identify sounds yet. But honestly, with practice, this does get easier and you will get there. So in order to give you a little bit more insight here, let's take a look at my instrumentation with Tainted Love and how I approached it here. Okay, so instrumentation-wise, not a lot actually. Like surprisingly, all of these pink tracks are vocals, and then this red is a drum. So the only instrumentation we have here are these tracks. And take this with a grain of salt too, because I did this cover differently. I approached it a bit differently. For you, just listen to your cover song and do exactly the same, trying to pick a similar instrument or something different if you want to go a bit, if you feel confident going a bit different. Now, so within those like low end frequency, I just have bass. This is like probably a Logic patch or different software instrument. E piano is a kind of foundational element. And then I recorded my own guitars here, adding a lot of rhythm. If we go into the chorus, you'll hear more 3 tracks of bells and pianos. Remember, I didn't have to come up with this melody. Oh, this is a stolen melody from the track because it's a cover. But this is a key element that is going to be recognizable to anyone that hears a song and knows of the song Tainted Love, which is why you shouldn't change such strong melodies in the cover if you want it to sound recognizable. So now we're ready for the important step number 5, which should be exactly the same as your cover. Like, think about it. When people remember a song, almost 100% of the time, what do they remember? They always remember the vocal hook. For your first cover, and if you want to make the song sound recognizable, I would definitely not try to change the vocal melody. Let's take a look at the Tainted Love vocal. Notice the Tainted Love vocal here is the same melody. This is important.
Sometimes I feel I've got to run away, I've got to.
That nothing changes with regards to the original there. What changes is the authenticity of my voice, and I went a step further just because it was in that dance pop world. I added a formant shift and dropped the formant by a very subtle amount that my voice sounds maybe a bit lower than it actually is, just to give a bit more danciness to it in a way that sounds, I think, darker. And so I have the authenticity of me being in my own voice, but it doesn't go away from the original melody. Besides the lead vocal, the thing you can get creative with in your covers are the harmonies and the background vocals, because they're more of an added texture element that's not super upfront in your song. So I added a lot of vocals, as you can see. Like, all these tracks are vocals. And I added a lot of doubles, and I added a lot of harmonies here. So all these harmonies.
Once I ran to you, now I run from you. This tainted love you've given, I give you all.
Sounds super crazy. And this, and that pairs really nicely with the melody, right? So supporting that main melody of the bells. You can almost hear that without any other context and know that this is the song Tainted Love. So by default, this vocal here and your vocal is going to sound different. And that's a good thing because you want to add some authenticity to it. Remember here, you're not reinventing the wheel here on anything. Like, you're stealing it and you're repainting it and then you're calling it your own for practical learning. Okay, you've put in hours into your cover song so far, hopefully, right? And you're wondering, like, how do I get this out online, like Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, or YouTube? So definitely be sure to follow this next step, because I don't want you to run into the risk of getting your song taken down, or worse, like any legal battle. So with that, it's very important you have a license. But how do you get a license? Now, a lot of music distributors offer them. You can get a license with almost any music distributor. Now, I don't know that for sure, but I know that TuneCore and DistroKid, I do have some links in the description. You can sign up for those platforms. They both offer licenses that you can get. Now, you'll have to pay for them, and I believe it's not that expensive. It might be like $10 for a license, or $10 a year, something like that. The only thing I dislike about the practical reality of remaking a cover song is that they don't flex your songwriting muscle, which is just so important to getting really good. So watch this video here, and I'm going to show you 3.5 Logic Pro songwriting tools that I wish I knew when I first started writing music in Logic over 10 years ago. It would have changed everything.